right, welcome everyone. All right, as you all are starting to stream in, we are going to go through some introductions of ourselves. So I am Rebecca, and I am the principal statistician at Optimizely, and I have a PhD in biostatistics. And the only thing you need to take away from that is I spent the better part of my 20s and 30s in tiny windowless rooms thinking about math all day, and I'm not salty about that life choice at all. And as a biostatistician, I worked on rare disease drug trials. I also did clinical trials of wearables, and I also worked on statistical text mining and supervised learning of online crowdsourced data. As a part of Optimizely, I spend a lot of time thinking about the latest and greatest scientific research so that you all can get the most out of our products. At this time, I'm also responsible for a small part of the results page roadmap, where I think about the different flavors of machine learning statistics that can really benefit the results page. Now, let's get to Cam.
Hey everyone, I'm Cam Hayes. I'm lead strategy consultant here at Optimizely. As my name kind of implies, I help customers with all things strategy related. What that means can differ from customer to customer, but I selfishly think I have one of the best jobs at Optimizely because I get to talk to a wide array of customers every single day and help them build up their experimentation programs. Thanks for coming.
Now, you all may, Cam and I look like everyday statistician and experiment strategists. And you may all think that you've come to yet another talk at Opticon.
You may think that you're in, I think it's sunny now, sunny San Diego, hopefully sunny. But for today, we want you to suspend where you're at. Imagine you're someplace new, and today you're in mission control. And today, you're all gonna be astronauts out there being explorers in experimentation.
But first, we need to fix your little mic. But it's very important. Technical difficulties. It happens to us all the time at mission control, but that's why we have.
Hello?
You'll hear the melodious sound of your voice very soon.
I can yell.
We're in mission control, folks. And in fact, we're on a secret black site. So just
very secret.
Very, very
Keep
secret.
It on the DL.
So welcome. Today, you are going to shed your job titles and your roles, okay?
Today you're going to become Chief Launch Engineer. So I hope you all don't have a cool job title like that. If you do, go ahead and pick a different imaginary job title. But today, Chief Launch Engineers.
100%. Now, I mean, Intrepid Heroes is also a pretty cool job title. It's pretty cool. So, so for right now, this is you.
Picture you guys this. Yeah. Alec, my boss, we took his headshot up here, threw it up there, so thank you for that.
I mean, real snazzy. I'm glad we got some nice still photos of you all. So, you are now fearless explorers, ready to go above and beyond with your experimentation. So I hope you're strapped in for the ride. Thank you. Now, here's what you're in for. We are going to show you around home base first. Then we're going to walk you through which rocket you may want to take.
We're going to make sure you can avoid all the disastrous encounters that could possibly happen, and make sure that you get back to home base, ready to keep on experimenting and showing progress.
Exactly. So first, we're going to walk through and go through our home base. Very important first step.
A/B testing, we can think of A/B testing as our home base for this mission. It's something that we're all very comfortable with, something that we have experience with, and something that served us very well and allowed us to be highly effective in what we're doing as experimenters.
Absolutely, and the vast majority of experiments run on our platform are split tests, are these split test runs with Stats Engine, which is great. It's great, but you all are here because you're dreaming bigger.
The Stats Engine is a pretty cool tool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We also have to say that out loud because it's very sensitive and its feelings get hurt easily.
Sensitive for a good reason, yeah.
It's sensitive for a good reason.
But today we're all Chief Launch Engineers wanting to go bigger and bolder, so make sure you put on that cap and think big today.
Exactly. But even though we've dreamed big, we're realistic. We completely understand that there's a number of fears and uncertainties and doubts that really surround bandit testing.
Go ahead and raise your hand if you've heard any of these before. It's too risky to test with bandits, or we can't test during our promo or Black Friday or Amazon Prime Day. This is the time where we make all our money. It's too risky. Or maybe we just say, hey, if we're not trying to reach stat sig, what's the point? Why don't we just guess and throw whatever we think is going to work best up there?
Exactly. Or there's, oh, my team is just, we're just a plucky team of 2. Should we really be doing this right now? It doesn't matter what the size of your experiment team is or your traffic. Bandits are for everyone. So, what are intrepid heroes like yourself supposed to do? I know that you're here because you know your competitors and some of your peers have been enjoying wild success with Optimizely's bandit programs.
If you're on space social media as much as I am, Spacebook, Sky News, think of any other funny space thing you can think of there.
Yep.
You see all these cool space astronauts posting all these cool photos of all the cool planets they've gone to, all the different experiments they've done, and you're a little jealous because your feed is not so great.
And you should really listen to him because he's got a ton of followers on Spacebook.
That's true. Thank you very much. Yeah. So if you want to turbocharge your experiments and really break out from the ground and leave your competitors in the dust, multi-arm bandits and Static Accelerator are a great way to go about doing this.
So we want to even out the playing field, all right? And so the first step of your journey is choosing your rocket. Now, we've got 2 different rockets to choose from. One is MAB and one is Stats Accelerator. Now, we need to have a talk. These rockets were named a long time ago, and Cam and I weren't there when they were named, all right?
That's our way of saying the names aren't great, and they're very confusing. So if you're confused by the names, don't worry. You're not the only one. We're with you. Yeah.
It's totally okay. So for MAB, it's got 2 different traditional fuels that are powering it for navigation versus Stats Accelerator, which has its own proprietary, eco-friendly blend of fuel that's moving it along.
It's kind of like vegan fuel or alternative fuel.
Exactly. So, multi-arm bandit strategies. These ones are all about time, okay? Every model, this bandit model is constantly updating and tweaking its strategy so that it can learn the best from your variations. So what I like the most about multi-arm bandits, especially the one that is Optimizely, I talked about those twin fuels. So the first fuel it's got is called Epsilon Greedy. So what that means is that that particular one is working for any of your numeric metrics. The other fuel that's powering MAB is called Thompson sampling, which is meant for any of your discrete conversion-based metrics. So we got that. And the other thing to know about multi-arm bandits is that it is dynamically distributing traffic, but then at some point it converges. It decides that this is the right strategy and it stops distributing traffic. That's okay. It's supposed to do that. The rocket is not broken.
Yeah, so if we see, again, this is all about maximizing conversions in the short term, right? So if we're concerned about, hey, how can we make as much profit or how can we make as much revenue or how can we get as many clicks or form fills or whatever it is in the short term, that's where multi-arm bandits comes into play. It's not necessarily for long-term decisions, it's about maximizing in the short term. Because of this is where I see a lot of my customers start with bandits. It's less risky, it's pretty easy to get going with it, and it's a great way just to kind of hit the ground running with it. Example that I've seen recently where customers have been really successful with bandits, or kind of a textbook bandit example, is around sales. And so I'll use a real world example here. I had a B2B customer that was offering a new service. Some very popular celebrity, I won't say who, Drake, tweeted about it or something on social media about it, and it blew up. So they wanted to take advantage of this big influx in traffic they were anticipated over the next 5 to 7 days. Bandits was a perfect opportunity for that. So what they were able to do is set up multiple CTAs, dynamically send traffic to the version that was converting at the highest at that moment, and maximize all those new traffic, all those new email captures that were coming in for that short period of time. Again, this was about maximizing in the short term, not looking for long-term decisions or to influence, maybe where the site is going to be 6 months from now or a year from now.
100%. Is there anything else special we need to know about multi-arm bandits?
Again, it's really just about maximizing those conversions, right? So if we're trying to reach statistically significant decisions and have that confidence, this type of bandits probably isn't best for you. Really just focus on the short term, getting as much bang for our buck and squeezing the most out of we can out of whatever primary metric we're tracking.
So the next one, this one is my jam. This is Stats Accelerator, okay? So what we've discussed so far is all bandit models are always alternating between exploring all of their options and then capitalizing on those findings. Now, we've talked about Stats Accelerator. It's the one with the vegan fuel, okay? So what it's doing is it's using a method called the upper confidence bound strategy. What you take away from that is that Stats Engine and Stats Accelerator are in cahoots. So Stats Engine's sequential confidence bound is Stats Accelerator's learning from Stats Engine, and it's pulling information from those estimated upper confidence bound and lower confidence bound. Then what Stats Accelerator does is it just pulls in and moves in like a moth to the flame towards the weirdest, most interesting, optimistic variation that it identifies, and it surges all its traffic over there.
Yeah, what's important to remember about Stats Accelerator is that it's looking kind of for the shiny object, the variation that is most different from the baseline where we're at the given point. Maybe that could be a positive, maybe it be a negative. We don't really care. We're just trying to go to where the highest signal is.
Exactly. Then after it's surged all this traffic, then it gets bored with it and it starts distributing its traffic to all the other variations and seeking out the next most interesting variation. The other thing to keep in mind is that it doesn't totally cut off the traffic from that one first statistically significant variation. It still offers a little trickle of traffic. So in order to assess if anything radically has changed during the life of the experiment. So that way, if you see differing levels of traffic amongst your Stats Accelerator variations, again, rocket's not broken. It's doing its job.
Again, Stats Accelerator is a tool that I love, and I wish, honestly, that I saw more of my customers use. There's really no reason not to be using it, and hopefully we'll understand why here. It emphasizes speed and is an excellent validation tool. So unlike multi-arm bandits, what we're looking for with Stats Accelerator is that confidence. This can be really helpful in making those longer term decisions, or looking for something where we say, hey, we need to know for sure that this is the best example of this. Again, I see a lot of customers doing this or doing this type of testing around things like images. So maybe they have lifestyle images or product images or different types of images that they want to test and see which performs best or maybe doesn't perform best. They can set this up as a Stats Accelerator test, see which version is getting the highest signal, and then decide, hey, we want to go ahead and run future testing around this, or hey, we have the confidence in this version now, we can go ahead and roll this out now, or make longer term changes with the site.
So we now have to talk about the getting yourself out of trouble. We have to talk about what happens when your navigation may go poorly.
Mistakes are bound to happen. That's okay. We've probably seen them all at this point. That's why we've taken all the mission briefs in, downloaded all the information, wrote a new manual for this. So we're going to teach you how to avoid any frustrating situations when you're using bandits, ensure that you're able to get the most out of your efforts, and ultimately get the results that you need to make decisions.
All right. So first we need to have a moment talking about Stats Accelerator, because there's this belief that the results from Stats Accelerator are no different than the results of Stats Engine, except that Stats Accelerator was given 5 espressos and a puppy. But in this particular case, remember that Stats Accelerator is always looking for the shiny thing. It's looking for the weirdest one. So, and that's just something that you will notice that makes the results a little bit more unusual than the other.
And again, when we're looking at Stats Accelerator, we're looking for the variation that has the biggest difference from the baseline. So these are decisions, maybe not looking for short-term decisions, making longer-term decisions, or ones where we need that statistical certainty and to have confidence in the decisions that we're making. Stats Accelerator is a great tool for that.
Yes. So I'm going to walk you through how Stats Accelerator is acting as your navigation. So the first thing is it knows that your baseline is the most important. Then it's looking out which is the one that has the most radically distinct performance from the baseline. Then from there, after it surges traffic and achieves statistical significance, it looks for the next one that has the second most radically distinct performance compared to the baseline. You'll notice in this series that the third planet over there is relatively similar to the baseline, so it's going to be last in the navigation's choice of where to go.
I like to think of this, or intuitively you can think of this as a ranking system, right? Which is the first, which is second, which is third, which is fourth.
But this is why, if this is your first mission with Stats Accelerator, I recommend that you test it, you use it with variations that you are familiar with, meaning that you have run them through Stats Engine before. You know what the performance is going to be. It's a little bit harder to make sense of the results from Stats Accelerator if you're exploring the outcomes for these variations.
That's why Rebecca's a big fan of the Stats Accelerator Thunderdome. And there's supposed to be fireworks and fire, but
just imagine it going up right now. All right, so let me walk you through the epic Thunderdome. So excited about this. So imagine that you are ready to navigate with Stats Accelerator. You know what your home base is. This is your home baseline. And you have already explored these 3 planets. And they all have a lot of promise. They've got great energy, and they're probably gonna get you a lot of likes on Spacegram and Spacebook and Star Trek Talk and all those great things.
Galaxygram.
Absolutely. Now, you are feeling pretty good about these 2 planets. Their improvement, their potential is relatively similar. And then with that 3rd planet up at the top right, your leadership has asked you to navigate that one just in case. And that's great about Stats Accelerator is add it in. That's fine. You've explored it before. So when you set Stats Accelerator on its course, it's gonna go for the most distinct and radically interesting one. And that's how you determine which is the ultimate winner of your variations. Makes it very clear.
So let's talk about some of the bad things that can happen, or hopefully not happen after this session here, with multi-armed bandits. Again, these are for short-term decision-making, not necessarily the best form of experimentation for long-term decisions or things that are going to impact a wide swath of the site. So for this reason, we can think about bandits as that short-term decision making, but as we move into it, we might run into some issues here, right?
Right.
One of the first is not using it for short-term decision making.
Not using for short-term decision making. So I want you all to imagine that you have set a course with your multi-armed bandit, MAB, and you found a gorgeous planet, right? So some folks think that work is done, all set. You don't have to think anymore. This is the decision to go with. Is that true?
I wish it were the case, but
right.
Unfortunately, that's not always so. And this is an AI-generated graphic, so that's why it's horrifying. But as we find out that maybe you arrived on this planet and it looked really good in the springtime, it was nice. Think of it as like Miami in the winter. You want to stay there, it's great. But then it turns to the summer, and you're like, this isn't so hot anymore. So maybe the aliens out of there that were nice and friendly now aren't so nice and friendly, and maybe they want to eat you and your family. So maybe we decided, hey, making multi-armed bandits or using multi-armed bandits is great for short-term decision making, but if we want that confidence of maybe where we should set up our new home, we may not want to use this method.
I like that. Multi-armed bandits. Don't let the aliens eat your family.
Don't let the aliens eat your family, yes. So we can go about this in a smart way, right, to avoid some of these issues. One of the key things to remember with multi-armed bandits is that it needs to be aligned, or the metric that we're keying in on needs to be aligned to your business unit and your company-wide goal. Oftentimes this is around like conversions and things like that, but remember, multi-armed bandits isn't about reaching stat sig. It's not necessarily about having that statistical confidence. We just want to guide those short-term decision making. So that's always what we want to remember with that.
Now, it's been a whirlwind, but congratulations. You all are chief launch engineers now. So what we're going to do is we're going to, woohoo. So we are going to debrief, and then we're going to actually set you up with some fancy checklists so that you and your team can go off on your own missions.
Yeah, thanks. Now you're all chief launch engineers. Give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah. Great job, everybody.
It's hard work.
Yes, it is hard work. So yeah, you're ready to share, hopefully now, the insights of what multi-armed bandits and stats accelerators can do for you and your teams. Hopefully you go onto Facebook or Galaxygram or LinkedIn if you're here on Earth, and talk about all the great things. Spread this knowledge with your team. Encourage them to use it. Talk to leadership. If you need us to talk to leadership for you, we'll explain why this is a good way to go about it. But yeah.
I'm very scary. He's very nice.
Yes, I'm too nice. The other thing that's important to remember is, with Stats Accelerator, if you're running tests and you're not getting those wins or you're not seeing the movement, this can be a really awesome tool to show that movement, or to go to your boss and say, hey, we may not have a statistically significant answer here, but we have an answer where we're maximizing conversions, or we know in the short term that this version is best. So if you're having trouble reaching stat sig, or that's not your primary focus, this is a really valuable tool to do so.
So first thing, get out your cameras because we have our first pre-flight checklist. So something that we'd want to keep in mind?
Yes, thank you. One thing, and again, you've heard me say this 15 times, and I'll probably say it 10 more before the end here. If you want to maximize improvement, use multi-arm bandits. This isn't about long-term decision making. It's about getting the most as you can in the moment. If you're looking for that long-term decision, this is where Stats Accelerator comes into play.
Exactly. Now, don't put your cameras down yet because we've got another checklist for you. Whoa, all right. So the main thing that I'd love for you to highlight is that I really want you to have a good time with the Stats Accelerator rocket, even with its fuzzy vegan fuel. So the thing to keep in mind is if you are, just test with variations that you know how it's performed in the past. That's how you can have the best time with it and understand how it can validate your results. So, with that, congratulations, everyone. You have now graduated, and go forth and boldly experiment. Thank you.
Thank you.
As you see on this slide, if you really enjoyed this talk and want more of the expertise of our brilliant strategists, we've got 2 names on there, and actually they're in the audience right now. You can go talk to them and schedule some time with us. But we are ready for Q&A, and there'll be a microphone that'll be passed around. So we'll be starting with this gentleman over here. All right, there'll be some. This is now where we need the sunglasses.
All right.
I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more as to why you would want to have tests that maybe you're more familiar with or ran previously for Stats Accelerator.
That's a great question. So that came from research in the Netherlands, where the publication was called Multi-Arm Bandits in the Wild, and it found that this kind of strategy, multi-arm bandits, were best for really exploiting knowledge that you already have. And so, especially since bandit models tend to be a little bit more traffic hungry, I've found that you can learn the best and you learn quickest by doing Stats Engine first. You get all your learnings together. Doesn't have to be rock solid, but once you understand what you're looking at, Stats Accelerator is going to quickly identify the coolest one for you.
Yeah, I'll see this when customers, maybe they'll be running a test with 3 or 4 variations and they're not reaching stat sig. Maybe they don't have enough traffic. Maybe it's underpowered for whatever reason. They can use, hey, version 2 was showing a slight improvement, although not statistically significant. Now we can take that version, run it through Stats Accelerator to prioritize reaching significance. So we can either move forward on that one or pull it out of the equation and only focus on the other versions.
Actually, to that end, another use case was that there was a bunch, one client had several winners, but they had very, very similar performance. And when leadership was trying to choose between them, it really was much easier to put them in a Stats Accelerator experiment and figure out which one was the ultimate best performer, instead of just basing it mostly on gut and just the numbers of the stat sig. Just easier to validate and justify.
Hi. So when it comes to communicating to stakeholders and presenting results, usually when we've kind of conditioned stakeholders to expect certain kinds of numbers from us in terms of this is the stats, like this is the confidence interval, this is the stat sig, this was the conversion rate, etc., improvement, whatever. How would you communicate Stats Accelerator and Multi-Arm Bandit results in a way that still delivers confidence in those results?
I think Cam can speak to this first.
Yeah, good question, and a very common one, right? And I don't think there's necessarily a silver bullet to this discussion, especially since we spend a lot of time focusing on stat sig and reaching stat sig and emphasizing this, and then we're going to say, actually, maybe you don't need that for this experiment. So I get that, and it's very common. I think a lot of it is just education, right? We have to explain why we're undertaking this different form of experimentation and what the benefits are. I think it's also important to be transparent with what the possible risks are. And although I think very minimal here, especially if you follow kind of the procedures and set it up the right way, it's important to be able to communicate that, say, hey, we're running a multi-arm bandits test because of this, and these are the benefits of doing so. So I think there is an education component. I also think, when you're running a bandit, hits, you're focused on conversion. So it's, it can be easier to say, hey, we didn't reach stat sig on this, but we, got 10 more conversions than we would have got if we were running a multi-arm bandits test. So you can focus on that bottom line number a lot as well.
But that's also why I emphasized often about using stats accelerator in a sequence, especially if this is some of your first outings. It is more palatable if you understand, okay, these all were great, and now we're just really squeezing out that information using stats accelerator. That's just another way to justify it. Oh, we got a question over there and a question over there. Hi.
Yeah, hi. So I know sometimes we have ideas we think are great and they don't actually make a difference at all, and it just, there's no noticeable lift, let's say. Does that happen as well? I mean, I'm assuming it could still happen with the stats accelerator, for instance, if your optimization that you've made just does not affect the bottom line, like that could be an outcome, right? Or no?
It could stall, but that's the good part about stats accelerator.
I think it tries to eliminate that or shorten the time, but I think sometimes you are just, a statistically inconclusive decision is still a decision in itself a lot of times. So if you're not reaching stat sig, or if you're not seeing movement or variation from that delta, it just may mean, hey, this change wasn't bold enough, or customers are responding to it in a different way. So if you are encountering that, that's where running stats accelerator can be really helpful. Hey, we're not reaching stat sig. It's important for us to try to get there. Let's run this as a stats accelerator test to try to get there in the most efficient way possible.
Got it. So it can just speed up the process of realizing that there won't be a lift with it. I mean,
actually, to that end, there's one thing that even if, and as part of communicating results to leadership, one element that I really encourage is that you report the statistical significance along with the confidence interval, because that can actually provide more compelling information about why you went for this decision. So it may have been really tough to reach stat sig, especially when you have a smaller effect to detect, but if you've got that confidence interval on your side, you could say, hey, this looks good, and this confidence interval indicates us that this will have this particular variation will have this effect in this particular direction, positive or negative. But that is the drawback of stats accelerator, is it's going to go after the shiny thing, whether it's trash or if it's treasure.
okay, thanks.
We had two over there.
Get my workout in.
Yes. Going to be Intrepid Hero next?
Cool. Aislinn with SoFi here. Do you tend to recommend testers taking the top variation from a multi-arm bandit and then putting it through a strict A/B to get that accurate reading of conversion rate delta?
Oh, that's interesting.
I love that methodology, and it's something that, to the question earlier, if you want that stat sig, maybe you want to maximize conversions in the short term. I often see this when you're running, 5, 6, or how many variations there. You maximize, you figure out which 3 are performing the best, and then you go and run those as an A/B test or an ABN test. The most efficient way to always reach stat sig or reach a statistically significant answer is going to be a split 50-50 A/B test. So if you can get that direction with bandits and then run it as an A/B test to get that verification, I think that's a great way to go about it.
The main thing is we want to encourage you all to start interrogating their patterns of experimentation. If you notice that it's really heavy on stats engine tests, maybe it'd be best to start pairing it with an MAB. Maybe it's time to start experimenting and go experimenting within your own experiment program.
Cool. Only follow-up question. How do you guys estimate traffic for multi-arm bandit tests? Like, what are your recommendations? I know there's a ton of numbers you could consider.
That is a fantastic question.
I'll give that one to you.
Oh, great, thank you. I love the crunchy questions. Well, typically multi-arm bandits are used during surge periods, and so you would have historic knowledge of the past, because normally it's used for example, Black Friday or for Christmas. So that's why we try to use multi-arm bandits when we know we're going to get them most activity and most interest. So if there's going to be, one of our clients is a Royal Horticultural Society for the flower show, and I know that the annual event, one of their annual events, brings the most traffic. That would be the best time to use a multi-arm bandit during that time when they have those promotions. So when you know you're a big traffic surge is coming your way.
And I think too, that's one of the benefits of bandits is no matter if you have 100 users coming in or 100 million users coming in, it's going to maximize the traffic, or dynamically allocate the traffic to maximize those conversions. So you don't necessarily have to do those pre-test calculations, which I know you all do prior to launching.
Okay, we got two more out there too.
So building off of that question where we were asking to elaborate on like why we're picking something that we have run before that didn't reach statistical significance that we're familiar with, I'm wondering, is there different calculations that we're using in the stat accelerator versus the regular, your guys' results that you do through your stats engine? Is it actually less conservative? Is that why is it actually faster? Is it like, I'm wondering the part accelerator, is it actually true?
Yes.
Like if we run exact same thing with and without it, will it eventually reach statistical significance much quicker in a stat accelerator being utilized? And is that a less conservative approach than the other one?
I love that question. And the main thing to remember with Stats Accelerator is the strategy is using upper confidence bound. That's really the key part of it. Is it's going, all right, so it looks like your improvements are like sky high, so we're going to actually throw a bunch of traffic that way first. And so the main things for that variation, you get that insight first. And that's why we talked about it as a ranking. You're going to learn from that one first. The advantage to using Stats Engine is that you have a sense of if these particular variations have a longevity of their effect. But Stats Accelerator is extremely valuable as a tool for quick insight. Yeah, 2 or 3 over here.
So one of the arguments we always have is testing velocity, right? And we know that sometimes you may not always go to a statistically significant test, and you may run more of them to decrease that chance of a false positive. Is there a case for using the multi-arm bandit for like copy tests? You know, you have 20 products, but you know, one is a big hero product and gets a lot of traffic and the others don't, and it's polishing. Like, how would you use the multi-bandit to maybe increase that velocity? Is that a strategy or no?
Correct me if I go astray here with your question. You can't, we're not selecting, we're not predetermining, hey, we want to send 30% of traffic to this variation because we think it performs better, or maybe we even know it performs better. That's what that's what multi-arm bandits is doing, is looking at, you know, in the moment, right now, which version is converting the best and dynamically sending the traffic that way. So maybe it sends 80% of traffic to one variation, it keeps 20% in another. Maybe that flips at some point during the experiment, right? Maybe a week later, the other version, you know, that we were only sending 20% to, we're now sending 80% of the version to. So we can't pre-select where that traffic is going. That's what the bandit is doing, is selecting that and maximizing those conversions. Does that answer your question? No.
Okay. One thing I'll add maybe is then you can elaborate. But
after I'll ask it, rephrase the question.
Okay, that sounds great. The other thing to know about the bandits, especially the 2 traditional models that are fueling MAB, is that they are doing much more of the capitalizing on their findings than doing a whole lot of searching. So that's really like, if it struck gold, then it's going to really throw a bunch of traffic into there and stick with it, as opposed to Stats Accelerator, which does do a lot more searching. So you were saying with your question? Okay, that's the one.
Is there a way to regulate your exploration parameters so it doesn't converge too quickly into one of your cells?
Are you meaning is all these exploration and exploitation parameters, are they customer facing? So no,
and can you change them?
Can you change them? No, you cannot. We don't put those in front of the customer. So the question that they're asking is, can you tune some of the models? The terms they've used is exploration, exploitation. You've heard me say that these bandit models are searching amongst all its options. That's exploration, and then digging into the capitalize on its finding. That's the exploitation part. So no, we don't put those tuning parameters in front of customers. Next question. We're here all day. Feel to ask us, intrepid heroes.
This one's a little less actually related, but is the reference high intrepid heroes a thing relating to Dimension 20 at all?
Of course it is.
I'm so happy to hear that. It's so excellent. And I didn't want to be the guy to ask, but then I was like, I think I have to. So.
She's glad you did, yeah.
Yes, so pleased.
Are you watching the new season?
Of course, yes. Oh, nice. Okay. Well, we don't need to do drinks. I gotta go turn on my phone. All right. What we got next? Tell us.
Hi. Yeah. So I'm thinking of like a real use case I have right now. Got a test. I love it. I'm smashing refresh on it, and it just can't get over the hump to reach stat sig. You know, it's at 75, 76, 78, 54. Like, is this a use case for Stats Accelerator to try and like confirm what I think I'm gonna get to eventually for a test that's just always been positive, flirting with getting there, but just can't quite get over the hump?
Oh, that's interesting.
How many variations on that test?
This is just the A/B.
So that might make a difference. So when we're running a Stats Accelerator test, there needs to be at least 2 variations in addition to the baseline. And that's because, again, we're trying to figure out, which is the most different here. The most efficient way would just be to run an A/B test. So if we have, variation A in the baseline, we just want to run that as a split A/B 50-50 test. Stats Accelerator isn't going to get us there any quicker. But if we have 2 variations in a baseline, that's where Stats Accelerator could come into play and help with that.
And I do want to emphasize his point that having a even split, that's called maximum power, and that is, I understand it must be frustrating when it's jumping around back and forth, but if you wait the full business cycle of at least 7 days and have that 50-50 split, we're hoping it will be a more stable result.
This question is more for the roadmap for these 2 tools. Is there some new things coming up with AI developments as well? I mean, I'm sure it's not in static mode, these 2 tools you guys are continually developing.
That's very true. In terms of bandit models, we don't have any plans on the roadmap for future development in the bandit model space for this quarter or for next. However, we do have automatic sample ratio mismatch detection coming in at the end of Q4. What that means for you is that if you'll have automatic detection of any unusual imbalances of visitors within your test variations. It's gonna let you know if there's any problem, and it's also gonna let you know if your experiments are safe from any imbalances. So that's coming soon, and that is another particular, actually a Bayesian model that we're very proud of.
But please run some tests and let us know what you want to change. Yeah.
Okay.
One more.
All right.
One last sprint, Sarah.
Should have started my watch. So thank you, Sarah, for all your hard work and hopefully more steps on your watch. Yes, sir.
So just to follow up on the question that the gentleman had in terms of not getting to stat sig and going to 76, 75, 54. I can't say as I'm an expert in this area at all, but is there an option in that case if it is a straight A/B test and the tester has confidence that there's good data in terms of what the control performs at? Rather than running 50-50, could you just flip 80-20 to the variant and try to get more data faster? Or is that a strategy that would make statistical sense?
Yeah.
I was going to say, Rebecca might yell at you if you do that. But no, you can do that. I'll let you do it.
You'll make me very, very sad. And every time that you change your traffic to 80-20, a kitten loses its wings. But another way to think about it is you heard me say maximum power, and that comes from Microsoft's research where they determined that if you do even proportional traffic split amongst the number of variations you have in your test, it is going to be a faster experience. What I mean by proportional is that if you have 3, then if you have 3 variations, then you can do 33, 33, 33% traffic, and so forth. So for this, I ask, besides the kittens, save the kittens, 50-50 even split, please.
But you can change it in the platform, just if you want. I won't yell at you, she will. Yeah.
All right, thank you everyone, and we'll also be here on this stage if you have any more questions for us. Thank you so much, you've been so great.